What's up guys, welcome back to On the Brick. When I first started this channel, it was my goal to have 50 subscribers at the end of this year. And instead, it happened in just over a month. And that is ridiculous, insane, and incredibly awesome. So either my girlfriend has gone out and made 49 other accounts and subscribed to me a lot, or there are actually people out there who like what I do. And to each and every single one of you, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to do this, to showcase to you my mocks, my minifigures, and my Lego collection. Thank you for allowing me to do any of this, and I hope I can continue to do so for as long as I can. My goal for when I reached 50 subscribers was always to do a collection video, so that's what I have here today. However, I do also want to give back to you. So I have this custom Season 7 Ahsoka minifigure. She is custom printed and will come with the minifigures. So if there is interest in a giveaway for her, please let me know in the comments down below and I can make that happen. And when it comes to my collection, I do just want to say a few quick things. First, none of this is for sale. Please don't ask, unless you want the Luke or Hulk, but we'll talk about that. Second, I have massively downsized over the last 3 years. In fact, I got rid of most of my Star Wars playsets, my entire city, Ninjago, and Minecraft lines. This is actually the smallest my collection has ever been since I started. Speaking of starting, we're gonna head over to my parents' place where a small portion of my collection still sits. We recently redid our floors over there, which is why you see my UCS Grievous on the floor. He is a little bit in need of repairs, and here we have some nostalgic sets. The AT-AP was one of the first sets that I was able to buy with my own money. In fact, I own all 3 versions of it. You can see the second version there, and the third version I'll show you a little bit later, and then of course there's Falling Water in between. Now that little bit of a mess in front of it all is a custom UCS quote-unquote spider droid. That was my very first custom build, and I bought it pieces and all for $18 off of a guy on YouTube way back in 2008. I don't actually know if that guy is still around. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very stable build, but I am still very happy to have it. Moving on, you see one of the first UCS sets that I ever had with the Rebel Blockade Runner. Also got this back in 2008 or 2009, and I built this in one straight sitting of 12 hours, only stopping to eat. In front of that is another architecture set with the Sydney Opera House. This is actually the 3rd version of the Sydney Opera House that I own. You'll see the other 2 later on. And next to that is a broken down AT-ST from the Battle of Endor, which I do have the minifigs for, but unfortunately I've actually taken the set apart. On the next shelf is my first non-UCS but still big build, the Star Destroyer. I had this before I had any of my UCS sets, and in fact at the time I was a little naive and thought this was the UCS Star Destroyer, and was incredibly happy about it, but even though it's not, I'm still very happy to have this, and it brings me a lot of good memories. The next shelf above that has 2 more UCS sets. First, another prequel set in Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter, and then Darth Vader's TIE Advanced. Now again, I just want to mention that we just redid our floors, which is why these are displayed in such a weird way, and normally I don't have them like this. Now, just like General Grievous, I actually bought the Jedi Starfighter for myself as a birthday gift, and I really enjoyed building it, unlike the TIE Advanced, which I found really boring and repetitive, and actually took about a week to put together just because I was bored of it, even though it does look good when finished. If I remember, I'm going to add better pictures of this here, but on the tiny shelf, I have the remake of General Grievous's Starfighter, not the 2020 version, this came out before then, along with the original version of the Architecture White House and the Brandenburg Gate, and then some Batman thing in front of that. It's kind of funny that 2 of those sets are actually being remade this year. On the shelf above that, I have a lot of the original architecture lines there. You can see the Hancock Building, the Sears Tower, the original Empire State Building. You can see Big Ben, the Space Needle, and a space shuttle. And then, of course, the 2008 Republic gunship. And let me tell you, I spent months saving up to get that thing. The day it came out, my best friend and I went down to Walmart and bought the set, and I was just so excited. It's actually still one of my favorite sets to this day, and I hope I remember to get better footage of what's on top, but up there I have the UCS TIE Interceptor and the original Hailfire droid, which even though it's a little bit of a boring build, is so much better than any of the other versions they've done, which I think there was only one, but still. Also, I do have the UCS Death Star 2. It was actually my first UCS set ever. At the time, the closest LEGO store was about a 2-hour drive away from me, and so when I learned I was going to Chicago for the summer, I happened to know that there was a LEGO store there, and I got really excited, because I had been shown this set several months before, and I knew that I was going to get it. So, like the gunship, I did a lot of work to be able to save up the money for it, and when we went to Chicago, I finally bought it. And when we got back home about a week later, I immediately started working on it. Now, this set has no numbered bags or anything, and me being only 13, it took about 3 days to put together. And I distinctly remember the same best friend as with the gunship came over to help me build it one day, and he asked me, "Hey, what are you going to do if this breaks?" And I said, I'm probably going to let it sit there for 16 days before I rebuild it. Now, I, again, was very young, and I had never seen a UCS set before, so I vastly underestimated just how much room I would need for this. In fact, I made room on my bookshelf thinking it would fit there just fine, but when it inevitably didn't, I resorted to just keeping it on my floor, which worked for a total of about 4 hours until my mom went into my room and accidentally knocked it over. And when I say accidentally, I do mean accidentally. At the time, I was incredibly angry, partly because I was young and partly because I had spent so much time and money on that thing, but unlike the Rebel Alliance, my mom had no intention of actually destroying it. So I did end up letting it sit broken for about 2 weeks before my mom made me put it back together, where it sat fine for about another 4 years. At this point, I had just graduated high school and was going on a traveling journey for a few months. When I returned home, I found out that we had repainted our house, and in the process, the Death Star was destroyed again. But my mom very kindly went and rebuilt the entire thing, and to this day that remains the only LEGO set she's ever built. And I would love for that to have been the end of the story. Unfortunately, like I said, we just redid our floors, which means that the Death Star broke again. So if I remember, I'm going to put a picture of the box that it's now living in, and at some point I do plan on rebuilding it, but it probably won't be for a while. And that is all the sets which live at my parents' house. And if the time bar of this video is any indication, you can imagine what I have at my place. I say that as if I'm not literally about to show you right now. Now back at my apartment, things are a lot easier to film. Over here I have my modular collection with the Palace Cinema on the far left. I do have some tiny Christmas sets because I like to change it up during the holidays here. So I have all these like Christmas trees and whatnot, as you can see there. And then in front of all this, I have my first Saturn V. I have it displayed horizontally, and I really like how big this thing is. That's sitting in front of the detective's office, and you'll probably see some lines and whatnot, and I'll show you what that box is for, that battery box. Next is this wedding thing that I got as just because why not, along with the assembly square, which is one of my favorite modulars, and on top of that is the police box, the TARDIS from Doctor Who, of course. Next, I have this custom modular, the Tool Zone. It's a hardware store, and I actually am a huge fan of this set. I'm probably going to do a video on it at some point. It looks really cool, it's extremely well done, and I'll have the link to where you can buy this in the description down below. Next to that, I have the pet shop, and one of my many shells from Portal. I have like 5 or 6 of her for some reason, I don't really know why, and the Parisian restaurant is sitting right next to that. In front of the Parisian is my UCS quote-unquote hammerhead. If you want to see my video for that, go ahead and click in the upper right-hand corner right now. It was actually the first video that I ever made on this channel. And however nice it looks, it's pretty far from being a UCS set. But moving on, I have this Santa in a snow globe type thing. Most of these smaller sets I got just working at the LEGO store. And that is hiding behind the first space set that I have to show you, the International Space Station. And I also want to remind you that I have 2 cats, which is why everything is displayed in a bit of a cluster like this because otherwise they would jump up on here and destroy everything. But the station is sitting in front of both the diner and the brick bank, and that is all the modulars I have right now. I currently have no plans on getting the corner garage, I'm just not interested in that set, but I do want to get the bookshop as soon as it's back in stock. And also you can see my second Saturn V, this time displayed vertically. I have this specifically because I want to remake it into both a Saturn 1B and the Saturn V carrying Skylab. Beneath all of that, I have the Batman space shuttle because I'm a huge fan of the space shuttle, and Kylo Ren's TIE microfighter. Next to that, I have the normal space shuttle with my ever-needing cat staying close. I mean, I love the guy, but still. And then you have my very packed Star Wars shelf. This has all of my 20th anniversary sets along with Brickfault's custom micro fleet. I'll probably do a video on those one day because I have some things to say about them. On the shelf next to that is the rest of my space sets. I have the Women of NASA and the Lunar Module here, of course. I also have a custom Skylab in the configuration of what it should have been, along with a 1/110th scale Soyuz and a custom Voyager probe. And if you saw my Falcon Heavy video, you know that I have plans for a lot more space mocks. Moving on to what we saw just a peek of earlier, I do have the UCS TIE Fighter alongside the UCS Slave 1 with the Phantom 2 and Thrawn in the middle. I actually wasn't a big fan of the Slave 1 when I first got it and almost sold it, but it's really grown on me and I'm very happy to have kept it and I love having it. Moving on, you can see the Falcon Heavy peeking out there, video in the top right hand corner, along with the one and only employee gift I got for my time at LEGO 400217. This set is worth about $300 in its current condition because it is completely sealed and has not been opened. And the only reason for that is because I plan to build it with my girlfriend one day. It's a cool looking set and I'm extremely excited to be able to build it one day. And if we go over to my Star Wars shelf, you'll see my buildable figure K2SO. He is one of the only buildable figures who I actually think looks good. Along with him, I have the advent calendar builds for both Rey's Speeder and the Ghost with the Phantom, and I have something special planned with Rey's Speeder, but we should get to that in a few weeks time, all goes well. Also, this 1K should tell you just how much I like Star Wars. But speaking of Rey's Speeder, I also have the playset version, and with that I also have the TIE prototype microfighter, and if you're wondering where all these minifigures are, I will show you shortly. Next up is the Ghostbusters Firehouse. It actually took me about 4 days to put this thing together, but that was mainly because I actually had to work at the time. And this is quite a wonderful set. I even made sure to get the Ecto 1, which did not come with this, because I wanted to have the full, complete experience. And I'm glad I did, because both of these are now very expensive. But this set looks really cool, and one day when I can get it into a better display area, I do plan to light it up, because I definitely didn't forget to show you what that battery box was for. What are you talking about? On top, I just have the display stand for the minifigures along with some miscellaneous ones. I'm actually not sure why they're up there at all. But next to that, I have this custom build I made for Valentine's Day in 2017 that just says love and has the Joker with Batman. And behind that is what I'm sure some of you have already been looking at, the 2013 gunship. I love this set so very much. I think it's a good complement to the 2008 version, and I really hope to get more versions of this. Kind of like the UCS version, but also I plan to get Brickvault's version one day soon. And I honestly wish that I had gotten more of these, but I'm more than happy to have one. Maybe I'll show this one day, but I do have a small mock for Crate, and it uses these microfighters. I do have the Resistance side on the other half, but I'm currently working on stuff with this. On the other half of my room, next to the Avatar The Last Airbender Blu-ray collection, I have the Stormtrooper bust, and sitting above that is, well, this thing. And honestly, I can't recommend this. I do have the video in the upper right hand corner, but the long story short, it was an incredibly frustrating build, which fell apart on me multiple times while putting it together, and in fact, this is probably the 4th time that it's fallen apart on me, meaning that even though I know how to put this back together, I know just as well that it's just gonna fall apart again. And it frustrates me even more to know that there is a better version of this from the same creator who refuses to compensate the people who bought this version in any way. Again, that's better explained in the full video, but to clarify, even though I bought this version, I am still expected to pay full price for the newer, better version, despite the creator knowing the extensive problems this one has. So I'm probably not going to be keeping this set, and if you want it, well, let me know, I guess. Actually, if you want it, hit me up on Instagram, that'll be a lot easier. Anyway, moving on, I obviously have the Boba Fett bust as well, along with the TIE Pilot, please excuse the light. On either side of that, I have the 2014, I want to say, version of Obi-Wan's Episode 3 Starfighter, along with Brick Vault's minifig scale version of the same ship, which I've done a video for and is always in the upper right hand corner. Behind that, I have the brand new UCS A-Wing, also did a video for that, but I really like this set, and just wish LEGO would stop putting stickers on a $200 collector set. But I'm also just happy that we actually got a new set this year. Hiding behind the A-Wing is an ATTE, which has actually been taken apart between filming and recording of the voiceover, because I needed the pieces to make a different mock. Then I have a 2-scale Fleet 2, the Star Destroyer that you see looming in the background. This includes a Hammerhead, the Ghost, and some of those transport ships. And like I said, they are all 2-scale to the original UCS Star Destroyer, which I did finally correctly get. But this set is currently undergoing repairs, which is why you see a giant gap in the middle there, along with one of the panels completely off of it. I would like to get the new Star Destroyer, but I'm not willing to pay $700 for 4,000 pieces. However, another set that I am very happy to have is the UCS Tumbler. The Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies, and when this thing was announced, I got it almost immediately. It is an extremely cool set, and one day soon I hope to get the new UCS Batmobile. Here's a quick preview of all my Halo Mega Block sets, because yeah, they're actually not that bad, and at my last job we sold them for ridiculously cheap prices. Anyway, moving on, I have all my Skyline sets here. From the back to the front, I have San Francisco, Vegas, Chicago, New York, and then Venice because it couldn't fit on the other shelf. And that shelf is this one, where I have Paris, London, Berlin, Sydney, and Shanghai. And of course, the Sydney one is the second version of the Sydney Opera House that I have. And down here I have a few more Halo sets along with a TIE Defender and the Rancor Pit. But who cares about those when I have the biggest LEGO set ever made, the UCS Millennium Falcon. I was actually fortunate enough to work at LEGO when this came out, meaning that I did not have to pay the full $800 for it. Regardless, this is the reason that I haven't bought the new Star Destroyer yet, because if this was $800 and it's the biggest LEGO set ever, I cannot justify $700 for half the pieces. But that's a conversation for another day. Because on top of the Falcon, I actually have two tiny builds, one from the Advent Calendar and one from like this $5 thing that they had at Target. I actually have another sealed version of the Target one because Millennium Falcon is misspelled on the bag. And then I also have the Millennium Falcon Microfighter, which is one of the few sets I've had to come with missing pieces. And it was honestly easier to just buy a second one than to worry about getting the replacement piece from LEGO, which is not a hard thing to do at all, but it was just faster. Moving on, I have one of my newest builds, the UCS Venator, video in the upper right hand corner. And man, am I finally happy to have this thing. It is insane, it is awesome, it is huge, it's super detailed, and I just love this thing. Even though I had to make a good few modifications to it, the build was not frustrating at all. It's actually held together very well. I've been able to move it. I've actually run into it on accident once, and it's still totally fine. I am so happy to have this thing. And hiding behind it is the UCS AT-ST. This was another one of my early UCS sets, and this is when they didn't all cost $200. And I'm very happy to have this thing. In fact, when I moved out of my parents' place, I made sure to bring it with me because it meant a lot to me. At the tip of the Venator, we have two sets. First, the Polybag Venator. In the video it's missing a piece, I've replaced it since then. But behind that is the original AAT. Despite a lot of the studs showing, this is one of the only versions of the set that I actually really like. There's a bit of nostalgia to that, yes, but at least it's the correct color and it looks like the AAT. And not to mention I also got this for a ridiculously cheap price. And then the last small set that I have over here is Han Speeder from Solo. As you'll see later on, this is actually the 5th different version of Han Solo that I own. And all of that is hiding underneath the UCS Red 5 X-Wing. Now this was not displayed in the best place for a few years, and so unfortunately it's not in the best condition, but I have taken the time to clean it up and try to restore it as much as I can. And I also wouldn't be surprised at all our first sequel UCS set is Poe's X-Wing or something. But going into the first cube, you see my custom Ranger from Interstellar. And when I say it's my custom, I mean I made this. And instructions are available if anyone is curious. But next to that, I have just about all my Jedi and Sith figures, along with a lot of my droids. In the back, I do have the Chrome TC-14 next to a custom gold C-3PO. Also, I just want to interject really quick that the day after I filmed all this, I received custom lightsabers for Nihilus, Revan, and Malgus, as you can see here. They are very nicely done, and I got them from Big Kid Bricks. His customs are some of the best I've seen. He doesn't just do lightsabers, he does full figures, not just for Star Wars, but for a wide variety of things. I've reviewed some of the figures I've got from him, link in the upper right hand corner, but also the link to his store will be in the description because I highly recommend checking him out. Also, I do have the Rebels version of Ahsoka. In the next cube, I have my Sith Trooper and Mandalorian army, along with my Jedi Fallen Order figures. Don't worry about those figures at the front of the Sith Troopers. They were an experiment to test the quality of a custom maker, and I do not like them. But I love the Mandalorians on the other side. I do have a Jango Fett that I found after filming this, and yes, that is a custom Baby Yoda. Standing behind him is Kenobi in his Mandalorian armor, along with Cal Kestis and 4 Purge Troopers. And then I have my clones. And I know this isn't the biggest clone army out there, but I'm very proud of what I have. In the back, you can obviously see my custom Mikaro with Galactic Marines, my custom Wolf with the Wolf Pack, my Phase 2 Rex with the rest of my 501st, and then you can probably also see 13-year-old me picking up a lot of these Phase 1 clones and coloring on them, trying to make them custom. That's something we all did, right? It wasn't just me. I also have some of the first custom clones that I got in Phase 1 Gree and Phase 1 Bly. I also got both of those from YouTube from a guy called LegoMan7777 who doesn't seem to have uploaded in a while. But I only got them for like $5 each, which I guess wasn't too bad at all. And on the last cube here, I have the architecture set of the Imperial Palace, along with my Harley Quinn, Joker, Batman, and Pirates of the Caribbean minifigures. I'm a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean, so I've just collected those over the years, and yes, there's one Lord of the Rings figure in there. But at the time that I was working at the LEGO store, the Batman Collectible Minifigures Series 2, along with some of the other Batman sets, came out at the time, and so that's where those minifigures came from. And I do have actual Batman minifigures, you'll see those soon. The next set I have is the custom UCS TIE Striker. I found the instructions for this on Bricklink. Unfortunately, since LEGO bought it, it has become display only, but I can happily tell you that you only need 2 of the sets of the TIE Striker to make this. One other set I found hiding behind my hammerhead was this custom Eclipse class Star Destroyer. Up next is my Iron Man collection. I do plan to make a video of its own for this entire collection, but for now it contains over 100 figures. I do have the new mech suit that came out earlier this year, along with the UCS Hulkbuster, and of course the Hall of Armor as well. I have the 2 playset Hulkbusters, along with the War Machine version as well. At the time of making this video, the new Iron Man sets are not out yet, but I do plan to at least get the figures when they are, even though I don't like the look of the new Iron Man figures. But like I said, I have over 100 figures anyway, covering most of what Iron Man actually has. I have every single LEGO Iron Man minifigure, I have a bunch of customs, and yes, I do even have some knockoff LEGO, but they were 60 cents each, and for a minifigure on display, I really don't care. And yes, Iron Man is my favorite superhero. Also, if you know where I can get a cheap Iron Man helmet, can you please tell me? Next up, I have a few more architecture sets and 2 idea sets, as I have both the Tron Legacy and the Ship in a Bottle sets. Then behind that, I have the Flatiron, the UN building, the Guggenheim Museum, Buckingham Palace, and sitting on top of that, a custom minifigure of my favorite soccer player in the world, Lionel Messi. Right above that, I have my minifig scale First Order TIE Fighter from Brick Vault, which continues to be a mouthful to say. This is one of my favorite mocks, and I just made a video for it on Tuesday, so check it out. I also have this Santa build. I don't remember exactly what it's called, and I'm sorry, but I also can't remember who made it. It was a fun build that I finished in a day for the holidays. You're actually able to turn the crank in the back here, causing the reindeer and Santa to go back and forth and make it look like they're flying. And then the last thing I have in my living room is the Death Star 2 battle. So let's turn off the lights and finally show you what that battery box that I definitely didn't forget about does. In fact, it's not just 1 battery box, it's 3. Because as you've probably guessed, I lit up my modulars. While there are people out there who sell kits for this, I find them to be a little expensive, and I lit these up for a total of $15. If you want to go with the lighting kits, that's perfectly fine. I have a few of my own, but if you don't want to be spending anywhere between $20 to $100 per modular, then just go get some string light and it'll work exactly the same. I even added Christmas lights to the outside of my town for when it's the holidays. Not to mention that these string lights are so long that I can actually get at least 2 more modulars and still not need more. And honestly, I just love how this looks. The Christmas lights flashing and everything really adds an ambience to it, but even the different color lights between the different floors really looks good to me. I'm very happy with how this turned out, and it brings an extra life to my modulars that I didn't really have before. So if you're on the fence about lighting kits, maybe try something like this instead when it comes to modulars. When it comes to smaller or more specific sets, lighting kits definitely have their place, but when it comes to modulars, you can definitely get the same effect for far cheaper. In the other room, I have the new Empire State Building, which is quite an amazing model and a serious upgrade from the original design. I found it to be a surprisingly not boring build considering how repetitive it looks, and the final design is just incredible. Along with that, I have the sets getting in the way. With Diva and Reinhardt, I also have Tracer and Black Widow. I don't have their ship anymore because I just wanted the minifigures, and I don't really play Overwatch anymore, and I wasn't really playing it when these came out, but I still thought that these looked cool. And for the short time that I did play Overwatch, I played as Bastion, so of course I had to get his set. I didn't get the exclusive one, I just got this one. And I also totally forgot that he has a light brick in his head. And then peeking its wing into the last shot was my UCS Imperial Shuttle. This set is actually my favorite UCS set ever made. Not only does it have a massive size, but it also has working parts as you can raise and lower the wings. It's actually minifig scale as well, and you don't really see any studs on the actual ship. Then of course I have this architecture set whose name I don't really know how to say, but more importantly are all the minifigures on there, which are each a representation of my current girlfriend. Anytime we got new pieces into the Build-A-Mini, I would use them to try to make a representation of my girlfriend, and I'll be honest, none of these are really that accurate, but when I look at them, I know what and who they represent. And lastly, on this shelf is a set that I wish I could get a better view for you for, and it's the Creator Sydney Opera House. This is, of course, the third version of the Sydney Opera House that I have, but to me, this is the most beautiful set that LEGO has ever made. I can't even think of a set that comes close, honestly, and I'm just extremely glad to have this, as I love how the build actually came together and the final design of it all. Also, I have all the exclusive figures from the 20th anniversary Star Wars sets up here, but I don't have Obi-Wan. Moving on, I have the Architecture Capitol building. A quick story here. The old shelf this set and many others used to be sitting on was actually overloaded and ended up collapsing on me. I just had too many books on it. However, even though I took the time to put the sets that fell apart back together and made sure to do it to the best of my ability, please forgive me if you notice any missing pieces or any of the following sets to not be entirely correct. Next up, I have the TARDIS from Doctor Who. You saw the actual police box version of this on top of my modulars, but here is the rest of that set. I used to be a really big fan of Doctor Who, enjoying the 9th, 10th, and 11th Doctors all pretty much the same. And even though the 12th Doctor's first season wasn't the best, I was still excited to see where he would go. Unfortunately, the first 2 episodes of his second season just lost me. I remember talking to my dad about it a few days later, and how disappointed he was in the episode. Since then, I've only watched one more episode of Doctor Who, and that is when the 12th Doctor is stuck in that time loop for billions of years. If all the episodes were as good as that one, I probably would have kept watching. But I am happy for all the wonderful seasons I did enjoy. There was a time I wanted to get all of the idea sets, which is partly what led me to get The Big Bang Theory. The other part is that my dad was actually a huge fan of the show when it was still airing, and even though I've never really seen the show, it still reminds me of him. Also, at one point, it was my intention to get all of the Avengers minifigures. This started right after the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier came out, which is why I have this display piece, and quickly ended when I realized just how many minifigures that would be. Also, the reason that I have 2 Falcons is for exactly that. I got the first one before LEGO ever made an official LEGO Falcon, and I spent too much money on the red version, so he's gonna stay there. I also got the Ghost Microfighter. I wanted the actual playset when it came out, but just never did, and now I'm just wishing I had. One of my favorite new ships from the Disney era of Star Wars is the U-Wing. The second this set went on sale, I picked it up. In fact, outside of battle packs, I'm not really the type of guy that's going to buy multiple versions of a set, but I happily have 2 U-Wings. I would happily get more, but I think that's what the Rebellion had. I also have Poe's X-Wing, which is one of my favorite designs from the sequel trilogy, and I also have one of the original, if not the original, B-Wing playset. Up next is one of the best idea sets out there with Wally. I don't know which version of this set that I have. I just know that I had him for quite some time before hearing about all the controversy and problems with him. But mine has been perfectly fine, and I am really happy to have this guy. He looks great and is a wonderful build. Next up is my cat Cece, who likes the empty shelf and decided that the empty shelf should be her shelf and no one else's. Now that my cat has decided the shelf is no longer interesting, here is the Great Wall of China architecture set. Even though I really like this, I don't really get why people are going and getting multiples of this. Sure, you can make a longer wall, but for me, one was perfectly fine. And then here are a few of my microfighter and polybag builds. Obviously, I have both Y-Wings, because of course I would, along with the Imperial Shuttle, the new Star Destroyer, and Poe's other X-Wing. And speaking of Y-Wings, I might as well show you the rest of them. I do have the Rise of Skywalker Y-Wing, and man was I really happy when they showed up. I have the Rogue One version as well, which is another set that I got for myself for my birthday. I do have the new UCS Y-Wing as well, which I really do like, and I think it looks amazing, but I still prefer the original, which of course I have. Even though the new one is based directly off of the model used in A New Hope, I think the original looks more like what the Y-Wing actually is. A scavenged starfighter from a war long over. Don't get me wrong, I love both versions so much, and I love all the Y-Wings. Next up, I have these. I don't really know what they're called outside of just minifigures, of course. And I kind of wish that we would get more, but I also know that there are more, and those were kind of weird to get. Anyway, here's another Nutcracker that I have. Not much to say about this one either. Here's another UCS set, the Naboo Starfighter. There is actually an interesting story behind me getting this, but that is definitely for another time. And here are my Batman minifigures. This is just part of them here. I don't have nearly as many as I do of the Iron Man sets, but I still do really like Batman. And here are the rest, all on display cases on my wall. Again, this is a mix of official LEGO, custom, and even some custom that I made. Some stragglers I almost forgot about are the Kylo Ren Microfighter, and then the Gingerbread and Easter Bunny behind him. On my top shelf, I have my UCS Nebulon B Frigate. Also did a video about this that you can see in the upper right hand corner. Hiding behind that is one of the best playsets that I think LEGO has ever made, Krennic's Shuttle. It looks great, has some neat functions, and opens up easily for playability. And then I have a few more architecture sets with the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower, along with the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and peeking out in the back is the newer Burj Khalifa. And then you can see the Statue of Liberty, which I still think they needed to do better on the face, but whatever. And then another custom set in the Empire over Jeddah. Also did a video over this that you can see as well. And if we look down, we see R2-D2, BB-8, Porg, and Dio. And I want to clear something up here. R2-D2 is a UCS set, but the other three are not. Even though they may come with a plaque, which is noticeably different by the way, they are not classified as UCS. Also hiding behind all of that is my playset A-Wing. Moving on, I have the UCS Snowspeeder. I always wanted to get the original but couldn't justify the price at the time, so I'm very happy that we got a new one. Also, I have a mini Krennic shuttle hiding behind it from the advent calendar, along with R2-D2 and BB-8. And then I have Krennic shuttle Microfighter, along with the original Kylo Ren shuttle Polybag. Hiding in the back on the other side was a brickhead that I forgot I had until I was making this video with the Bumblebee. And then of course my UCS B-Wing, which is another set that I'm very, very happy to have, as it's one that I wanted for a very long time, and the not UCS but still really cool Yoda. I have a few more brickheads that my girlfriend lovingly gave me in Vader, Captain Phasma, and a Stormtrooper. And then I have my second buildable figure with the Force Awakens version of Rey. Again, this is one of the only figures that I think actually looked good. When I first moved into where I currently live, the first set that I got was the UCS Super Star Destroyer. I don't really have room for it anywhere else at the moment, so it's currently sitting on the shelf in my closet, and it sits on top of a bunch of collectible minifigures. Next to that, and equally in need of a better display case, is the Shield Helicarrier. This is another set that I had a lot of fun building, and I love the micro figures that come with it. And lastly, I have this set, which is very special to me and not opened for a very specific reason. And after 40 minutes, that is all the LEGO sets that I have. However, I do have some more minifigures. These are all my Imperial figures, including Bounty Hunters. And on the other side, I have my Rebellion and my Resistance, including Wookiees, and the only 2 Battle Droid figures that I have. I was certain that I had more, but I'm guessing I sold them at some point. Regardless, these are the other 4 versions of Han Solo that I have, making him the figure I have the most variations of. And I'm only now remembering that I have the 20th anniversary version as well. These are my Rebel/Resistance pilots. I really love that red A-Wing pilot in the front row, and obviously I have a ton of the U-Wing pilots as well, but none of this compares to my First Order army, which does include this custom guy that I literally just threw together. I think he's called like the Sith Eternal Guard or whatever, but this is my complete First Order army as of filming. It consists of about 450 figures, and is still growing. At one point I wanted to do a full Star Killer base mock, but I don't have the room for that right now, so hopefully one day I will still be able to do that and put all these figures to good use. And I lied, this is actually my last set, which is the First Order Transporter, because I can't have a First Order army without being able to get it places. And that's everything. That's every LEGO set and every minifigure that I own. Thank you all again for 50 subscribers. That is insane that I reached there as quickly as I did. I hope you stick around as I continue to grow and hopefully provide more content that you like. It's been a bit, so again I'm going to ask, if you are interested in a custom Season 7 Ahsoka giveaway, please let me know in the comments down below. Remember to like this video if you like everything that you saw, because I certainly had something that I'm sure you liked. And subscribe if you want to see more, because I actually left out one very important set, and I'll show you what that is on Tuesday. So if you want to find out, I'll see you then.